JICA lecture series of Japanese development experience to date, in line with the JICA Global Agenda, Cooperation Strategies by Development Issues. How Japanese agriculture contributed to food security and rural life in responding to changing economy and society.
Since the establishment of the modern nation during the late 19th century, Japanese agriculture has experienced rapid development. Today, I'm going to talk about two key roles played by the Japanese agriculture sector during the last 150 years. This key role is food security and rural farm economy. I hope you can extract some lessons from today's lecture, since these two key roles of agriculture are common to basically all nations.
Section 1. Food security.
It is generally known that dietary habits of a nation pass through a general transition stage, which starts from a cereal-dominant stage, dietary diversification stage, to more fat and animal products stage. Japan also followed similar steps. Agricultural policy supported each stage of transition. In this section, I will focus on the first part, cereal-dominant stage. How Japan was able to achieve a rapid increase of rice production to ensure food security. There is a historical trend for Japanese rice productivity increase. As you can see, there has been a steady improvement of rice yield over 1,000 years. However, you can observe an accelerated improvement after late 19th century. This is a time when Japan transformed into a modern nation. Other Asian countries also experienced a rapid growth of rice yield, called the Green Revolution. However, the Japanese case was 100 years earlier than this, and achieved yield level of 4 tons per hectare. I'm going to explain this process divided into two stages, early modernization and post-war recovery. Early modernization. Since Japan started a new government system in the late 19th century, the key development strategy was to modernize the country by introducing Western technology and systems. However, farming technologies that were developed for different farming systems based on wheat and livestock under a different environment did not immediately fit the Japanese agricultural system. Then, an alternative approach taken in Japan was to make use of local technologies developed by farmers. The three technological highlights of this period were high-yielding variety, organic fertilizer, horsepower tillage, which were developed or introduced by rural advanced farmers. These technologies were promoted from farmer to farmer through government-led regional workshops. There, rural advanced farmers exchanged good varieties and technology that they have developed. This approach was effective because during the age of feudal society, Japan was divided into roughly 300 small territories called Han, and cross-communication between Han was restricted. After those Han were integrated into a modern national system, there was an opportunity for advanced technology developed in one region to be applied to other areas. This was the source of initial development. The proportion of farmer-developed advanced technology contributed to raising the level of nationwide farming technology for around 4 decades. After this period, a new wave of technology came in, which was developed based on modern Western technologies. As mentioned, modern technologies introduced from the West did not work immediately. However, the government invested in a national network of agricultural experimental stations to verify and localize Western technologies to fit the Japanese farming system. Although it took several decades, modern technology finally started to expand gradually. Post-war recovery. Agricultural productivity improvement stopped when Japan plunged into the war period. Agricultural productivity fell stagnant. Right after World War II, Japan faced a serious hunger situation, mainly in urban areas. But Japan successfully recovered from this situation within 5 years through a dramatically rapid development in productivity. This was achieved through several key actions. First, through a land reform program, in which poor tenant farmers could acquire their own land, which dramatically motivated them to invest on productivity. Next, in consideration of the serious scarcity in government resources, public investment was strictly prioritized. In the case of agriculture, investment was limited to chemical fertilizer production and exploitation of northern farmland. The exploitation of northern farmland needed a combination of technology and investment. As you know, rice originated in the southeastern part of China, which is a subtropic environment. It means that cold climate is not suitable for rice. So, expansion of rice cultivation in northern Japan required a technology innovation. This was achieved through a combination of cold-tolerant varieties and cold-preventing nurseries. Promotion of this technology enabled rice farming in northern Japan, and it was combined with large investment in irrigation in northern prefecture of Japan. As a result of combined efforts, Japanese rice productivity again showed dramatic increase, and the hunger situation was resolved after 5 years. JICA currently supports rice farming in Africa to achieve a doubling of production based on its rich experience in rice productivity improvement.
Section 2. Rural Farm Economy.
Now I'm going to explain the second issue, improvement of rural farm economy. Before moving to the Japanese experience, it is important to understand the general overview of economic development and agriculture. A major source of economic growth in agriculture is production and sales. Production is closely related to technology and environment, while sales is more related to consumer demand. At the early stage of economic development, food expense is one of the biggest expenditures in the household economy. Especially, the share of staple is quite high. Low food price is the biggest interest of consumers at this stage. As income grows, the share of food expenditure rapidly decreases, and the share of non-staple increases in relation to it. Consumer preference in diet rapidly changes from the staple to diversified food at this stage. As an economy improves further, food expenditure is not a great issue anymore. Consumers start thinking more about quality than price, as food price is no longer a big burden on household economy. When we look back at the Japanese history of agricultural development, we can understand that Japanese agriculture also followed the similar development stages as explained. Up to the early 1960s, consumers' preference was on rice at low price, and thus, marketing strategy was simple enough to produce more rice. Then, consumer preference rapidly changed after 1960 to consume a diversified diet. The strategy of the agricultural sector during this period was to improve farm income through crop diversification. After 1990s, as a result of crop diversification and increased food importation, due to trade liberalization, the food market of all commodities reached a saturation stage. The agricultural sector had to find a way of economic improvement. I'm going to explain these three stages in more detail. First, rice-dominant stage. Up to the 1960s, when rice supply reached a sufficient amount to feed national demand, rice had been the biggest income source of agricultural sector. People had a desire to eat more rice. Moreover, public rice purchase and distribution system ensured marketing channels for rice farmers. For this reason, steady rice productivity increase directly contributed to farm income. Second, crop diversification stage. Japan experienced rapid economic development in the 1960s and 1970s. This period had two big impacts on agriculture and rural society. The first point was a growing disparity between rural and urban, or agriculture and non-agriculture. A large part of rural population, especially younger generation, moved to large cities for non-agricultural jobs. The second point was a rapid change in diet. People started to eat more diversified food, including meat, dairy products, fruits and vegetables, as household income increased. In response to this situation, the top priority in the agricultural sector during this period was set on how to fill the gap between rural and urban, or agriculture and non-agriculture. A number of interventions were introduced, and eventually, three changes contributed to filling the visible gap. First, income improvement through crop diversification. Second, price stabilization policy for agricultural products. And third, income diversification from non-agricultural sectors. As a result of rapid income growth, combined with stable rice supply, people's desire for their diet started to change from how to fill a hungry stomach to how to enjoy a variety of delicious food. In responding to this transition, rural farming areas tried to change their crop production from rice monoculture to diversified crops, including fruits, vegetables, and livestock. Basic strategy included crop programming based on market information, government services for technology, access to finance to introduce new commodities, and empowerment of farmer cooperative to ensure the scale of their economy. Some of the experiences during this period have been applied in a number of JICA projects, such as One Village, One Product, called OBOP, or Smallholder Horticulture Empowerment and Promotion Project, called SHEP. Previously, I explained how farm income increased as a result of crop diversification. However, there was still an important issue remaining. Despite progress in crop diversification, the great majority of Japanese farmers were still rice producers. Since consumers' appetite was moving from rice to more diverse type of food, the consumer rice price was expected to decrease quickly. Based on strong political linkage between the Farmers' Union and ruling political party, price support policy, together with various subsidies, were maintained. This government support contributed to the improvement of farm income in the short term. However, in the medium to longer term, it hindered structural reform to enhance the competitiveness of Japanese agriculture, and dependency of government of those non-competitive rice farmers further increased. With the situation of rapid migration from rural to urban as background, the government promoted mechanization to replenish the decreasing labor force. Furthermore, government tried to promote farm consolidation to achieve large-scale farming, making use of migration as an opportunity. Rapid expansion of mechanized rice farming significantly reduced the workload of an average rice farmer so that they could maintain 1 hectare of rice field, working 1 day per week. This enabled rural rice farmers to work in non-agricultural jobs for 6 days in a week and rice farming only on the weekend. In the 1980s, nearly 90% of Japanese farmers were part-time farmers. As you can see in the graph, although agricultural income increased steadily during the 1970s, the rate of increase of non-agriculture was much faster. As a result, the source of income of rural farmers is now dominated by non-agricultural income. These part-time farmers did not release their farmland despite government expectation. As a result, land consolidation did not occur, which government thought would be the key step to improving the competitiveness of agriculture. Third, market saturation stage. After the 1990s, the Japanese food market entered into a new stage, which is the era of saturated food market. As a result of crop diversification, combined with increased food import and development of food industry, there were more than enough amounts of diverse food items available in the market. Increase in production has no meaning for income generation anymore, since markets are already saturated. You can see bar chart to confirm that raw agricultural production remains at the same level as of 1970s, even after 30 years. You can also find that despite stagnancy in the productivity of raw material, overall growth in the food industry is steady due to the growth of food processing, food distribution, and restaurant. One possible solution that rural farmer is trying to introduce is to incorporate the growing sectors into the food system. The sixth industry is a trial to integrate food industry into rural farming sector, including such as restaurant and food processing. In other words, it is an integration of primary, secondary, and tertiary industry into rural farming area. A number of activities are ongoing to introduce food processing facilities, restaurants using locally produced food items, combined with tourism and so on.
Conclusion and lessons learned.
Japanese agriculture has developed since the establishment of the modern nation in the late 19th century. It also faced challenges, including such as increased global competition, aging rural society. From the Japanese experience, we can extract some lessons which might be useful for other countries.
First, public support based on development stage. The key target of agriculture have passed through several stages, starting from more production of rice as staple food, followed by diversified crop production for better income, and reached improved value of entire food value chain. The key point was the need for consumer and rural area changes in accordance with the development stage, and thus government policy had to be carefully adapted to the changing situation. Second, importance of ownership of the farmer. The initial development phase relied on farmer-based technology and their willingness to share good technology with others. Land reform was also a good means to motivate farmers to invest in their own farmland and technology. Support by farmer cooperatives also empowered farmers to be self-reliant and economically viable. Public investment in agriculture became effective and sustainable only when it was combined with farmers' ownership. Third, role of public and private sectors and the relationship between them. At the initial stage of development, public support was essential for technological development and fundamental infrastructure. However, in accordance with the development of the food value chain, the role of the private sector became more important. Excessive support such as rice purchase policy, which weakened the linkage between production and market, hindered the sound development of the value chain. Any policy needed to be carefully designed considering the development of the value chain.
Japan has modernized from a non-Western background to establish a free, democratic, prosperous, and peace-loving nation. In this sense, Japan is one of the best development models for developing countries and regions today. In addition, Japan has contributed to economic growth in many developing countries, especially in Asia. Therefore, we would like to share with you Japan's unique experiences of modernization. which is different from Western countries, and cooperation for developing countries through this video material. This video series provides a comprehensive summary by development issues according to the lineup of JICA's cooperation strategy, called the JICA Global Agenda.